Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Salem. We're going over the high tier coal ships in 2024, taking a look at some of the older ones, seeing if they're still worth picking up. And today it is Salem. This is a really good tier 10 cruiser, mostly because it's basically a Des Moines. And Des Moines is a lot of fun to play. Even though it's an older ship in the game and the armor values may not be the best these days, it's covered in 30 millimeters of armor, which as we know gets overmatched a lot these days. It's still really fun because of the reload. The reload on these 203s is so fun to use. You get light cruiser levels of reload on higher caliber guns. Not only that, but these guns have really good armor piercing. So you're going to see me swap to that quite a lot. Not only is the damage quite good, the pen is amazing, at least the pen angles specifically. So you have these improved pen angles that allow you to get really nice full pens, even at very sharp angles. It's really, really good. Also, against destroyers, this high DPM is going to allow us to get a lot of damage on target and not be as focused on hitting one good salvo, whereas just like a light cruiser, we can just spam out shells and we're going to get our damage in. Unlike some of the other heavier cruisers, like let's say Yoshino, where we have long reloads, well, we need to guarantee that salvo hits or else we're doing no damage for like another 20 seconds or whatever, right? Very nice to have this reload here. It's really good for farming as well, and any sort of close range combat, Salem is a monster. To talk about the differences though, that's going to be the main thing here, is Salem is basically a Des Moines, but a little bit worse in my opinion. And that's why I don't think Salem is that worth picking up, and oftentimes you're going to see people kind of tell you to skip on this one. It really comes down to the guns are the same, the hull is basically the same, you get slightly less HP, but not really by a whole lot. But everything is basically the same on this ship. The key differentiation here is you get a super heal on the Salem, where Des Moines does not, but Salem has to have a much worse radar. The range is just less, and that is a bit of a problem for a ship that does want to be contesting caps. Des Moines is so good in those destroyer engagements, and is still really good in these farming situations, right? Dealing with this Freddy here, any of these Hindenburg or Azuma, it's really, really strong against those as well. And this super heal, as we're going to see throughout these games I have to show you, is not that useful after maybe the second super heal. You don't have that capacity to continue healing over time like a Minotaur might. It really comes down to the amount of healable damage you take. Notice here we've already used one of our super heals, and we only have 2,000 HP available to heal out of that 26,000. So we need to take a lot more damage now in order for one of those to be worthwhile using. And that's where the downside of this super heal comes into play. Any AP full pens and certainly Citadel damage is not as healable as something like a Minotaur with its super heal, where you seem to just keep coming back from massive heavy damage. And that's the downside, alongside that radar. Not only that, but you have the option of radar or hydro, not radar and hydro. A Des Moines can take both, where Salem has to choose in that third slot. You're guaranteed defensive fire then, but I think we'd all rather have radar plus hydro rather than radar or hydro and a defensive fire, at least for me personally. We do get ourselves a Confederate here. If you do have Halsey, this is going to be absolutely amazing. Check this reload out. It's like 3.5 seconds. And look at the AP damage, man. It's like 5, 6k salvos, 7k salvos out of this thing every 3.5 seconds. Are we serious? The damage is so much fun, and that's where I think this ship is still worth getting and playing these days. I love playing Des Moines, Salem, because of these guns. It's so much fun to have this reload on such powerful guns. It's a really, really fun ship to play. But the problem is that Des Moines gives you this same playstyle. It's a lot like the Shikishima, I think, at tier 10 there for steel, where you get the same playstyle out of a Yamato that you do out of a Shikishima, so why would you get a Shikishima? It's a very expensive thing to get for in-game resources. You could otherwise be getting the same playstyle, or maybe even a better playstyle. At least in my opinion, Des Moines is a little bit better than Salem, thanks to that extra utility of the radar and having the option to slot both radar and hydro at the same time, and the super heal not giving as much to Salem as other super heals might. So for me, that's why I won't be recommending Salem as much. We'll go over that once we're done all of these high tier coal cruisers. I'll tell you my rankings on which ones I would get first. But for now, just know that Salem is awesome, but so is Des Moines. And Des Moines you can get for free. At least time, it costs you time. It's not a money or expensive in-game resource that you need to get. Notice our dispersion here is a little awkward. It's one of the downsides of the Des Moines guns is that your dispersion's not the best. You shoot really quickly, but sometimes your dispersion can let you down. And that's just something you got to deal with this ship. It's not the most pinpoint accurate thing in the world, but against bigger targets, battleships, heavier cruisers, you should be getting good damage in. For example, we didn't hit any shells there. It looked like they phased through them a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. This guy's actually going to get away. We're actually not going to kill him there. A little unfortunate. And you can see the downside there of, hey, we got radar, but no hydro, so we eat a torpedo. And torps, well, we're not going to be healing much of those torpedoes back. Finally, we will take out that DD. Very nice to see. And not a ton of damage in this one, but we are finishing off a lot of kills here, dealing with destroyers, subs in this one as well, and that is some really nice utility. Taking a blind shot at that last known location, the sub was able to get us that just small amount of information updated on the minimap, and I just took a blind shot, and it happened to hit him. And then after doing that, I was so happy with myself that once he smoked up and my radar is not available, for some reason I didn't continue to blind shot him, because we would have easily killed him here. So a bit of a misplay there after a pretty lucky thing to do there to kill that, or hit him even when he's dark. But our radar does come up. I don't really have a preference, honestly, radar or hydro on this ship. I really like the hydro because it helps you against submarines, which are so annoying, and defensive fire, well, I guess, no, never mind. We're not even talking about defensive fire because we always take it. I'm so used to Des Moines, as you can probably tell. But I think probably the hydro is a little bit better in most situations where you're playing a Salem, because I think Salem's more of a damage dealer than Des Moines is. Des Moines can be the same level of damage dealing. Check this reload out. This is like a 3-second reload now with Confederate. Crazy. But Salem with that super heal can come back from more bursty damage. So you can play a little more aggressive. I think they have similar levels of healing overall, just because Des Moines gets more normal heals, and Salem super heals start to run out as you get towards the late game. Notice we can't heal anything back here with our heal right now. So Des Moines can deal, or Salem deals with more bursty damage, bigger hits quicker. So I think that lets you play a little more aggressive. And so with Salem, having a hydro to help you push up more can be really handy. And I guess that means you can also get closer for the radar. I don't know. I'll keep talking myself into either one. They're both decent, but it's a little disappointing to have that radar be so short range. At least at tier 10. It's certainly a short range radar. I get a little greedy trying to poke out on the Musashi. He was ready for me, so we died. Speaking of getting absolutely smashed for free by a submarine, always enjoy that. But notice how we can come back from that burst damage, right? That's the key to the Salem heal. It allows us to come back from that and be a little more aggressive because of that, I think. And that's where you would want to get a Salem. If you like your Des Moines, but you want to play a more aggressive damage dealer role rather than a more utility role, it's harder to play this as a utility role in more passive matches, I would say, compared to a Des Moines. But if you want to just full send it at people, Salem is great for that. And oftentimes I'll be running a build like this one. This is very different. In the first game we were running a very basic build with reload mod, and this one is full lighthouse. So we have 15.5 kilometer detect here. So we're always getting value out of top grade gunner. Notice it's still procced, even though everyone is so far away from me. It's a very, very risky build here. We're pushing in between a Schlieffen, a Georgia, and a Bungo. And there's a carrier around. So we're probably dead. I assumed I was dead here actually while playing, because I ate all that damage to that submarine. I had to move there, couldn't stay there. So I was like, all right, let's full send it, see what we can do. And we're actually gonna live quite a while. We're also running rudder mod instead of concealment here. I'll show you the full build later on, but notice our rudder shift here is so quick. It allows us to very quickly change direction. And here I'm going to try and bait the Georgia into shooting me, like I'm going to try and get behind this island, and then quickly turn back and cut our engine power as well, to try and dodge as much as we can. And just barely we do. Although his second follow-up there probably should have hit us. We get pretty fortunate there that battleship dispersion is so bad a lot of the time. But hey, we do live. It allows us to get our turn out. And this is more a playstyle you might see with Des Moines Legendary upgrade, where you have that insane acceleration, and it allows you to play more open water easier. And that's another downside to the Salem, is you don't have access to that. Salem would love Des Moines Legendary mod. Can you imagine that acceleration and maneuverability with this ability to heal from bursty damage if you make a mistake or someone catches you? It'd be so perfect for this ship, but unfortunately it does not have it. So another downside to Salem, I suppose. And it's not a bad ship, okay? I love Salem, okay? I just think that if you have not very many coal ships, or you don't have any coal ships, that maybe it's better to get yourself a ship that's a little more unique at tier 10. And if you're going for credits specifically, trying to grind out credits with a premium, then keep in mind that tier 10 coal ships, they're more like special ships, where sure, you can move your commander over to them. They have reduced repair costs after battle, so that will get you more credits than a normal tier 10 will. But they don't have that credit multiplier like a normal premium would. So that's kind of the downside of special ships, and you'll see those at higher tiers, specifically tier 10. Whereas some of the tier 9s that we do have to get to look at yet in a little bit here, they get a credit multiplier, which is why they make so many credits. That's why tier 9 is kind of the meta pick for if you're grinding out credits. But hey, we managed to live that scenario, which was kind of surprising to me. And this game does end with us having a victory. Long range Stalingrad here, and gonna spam some HE into him because we also have heavy HE on this build. So the damage output is gonna be a little bit increased. Although normally I won't be taking something like that because I'm not a huge fan of increasing our concealment for the most part, unless I'm playing a more lighthouse focused build like this one where it's just damage. But that's 5,500 damage of HE in one salvo there. That's pretty good into a Stalingrad, especially that we can't full pen his upper belt and deck armor there. That is just superstructure hits. And the extra maneuverability here, even Stalin shots from 15 are pretty easy to dodge just because of that extra rudder shift. It's really, really nice to have. Salem's great, man. It's a lot of fun. If you are someone who loves playing Des Moines and wants more aggressive, a more aggressive one without the legendary upgrade, but more that heal upgrade, it's really good. It's really, really solid. And if you already have quite a few of the coal ships, I think Salem's a great ship to pick up. It's not like you should just skip over it if you have the coal available and you don't have anything else to get. Because Salem can unlock some very unique playstyles, and it does play a little differently from Des Moines and can be very fun. Now on to our last game here. This is a range mod, a very basic, full conceal, more utility-focused build that has range mod. And I think this is going to be a great build for you guys if you're more, or you're less confident at tier 10 in a cruiser with not the best armor. The shell velocity is a problem at range, and that's why I like running reload mod and trying to get closer to things, because we guarantee much more damage. The shell velocity and that dispersion can be a bit of an issue at longer ranges when trying to impact the battle, but it is a much easier way to play, and I wanted to show that off as well because it is something you can do and still have really, really good games. I talk about this a lot, but cruisers are so much better in the late game. When there's less crossfires, less battleships, less long-range ships to deal with, you have that ability to push up without having to worry about crossfires as much. And they're really, really powerful in those mid and late game scenarios. They can come back and win a lot of games. So if you have range mod, it allows you to impact the game from a farther range like this in the early game, playing very safe on this island, as you can see here. And we're still going to keep that HP into the late game. Also on this build, only 3 heals. Not taking Superintendent. I think that's something you could consider on a Salem. More of a dedicated Salem build then, right? If we're bringing our Des Moines commander over, of course we do want Superintendent, because we are going to get value out of Superintendent much more so. We're going to use our radar much more. We want that extra one, but also the healing. The healing stays relevant for longer with Des Moines because it doesn't have a super heal, right? Whereas with this one, 3 heals is typically going to be enough, because by the time you're through 3 heals, you're probably close to dead with not much healing available to you. At least that seems to be how things go when I'm playing my Salem. Dealing with the submarine here, don't quite have the ASW range, so we're going to shoot our guns. But this is a situation where 10 kilometers away, my radar cannot reach that. And we even just take Hydro in this one. So probably a Hydro build is probably going to be best with Salem, especially if you're going with range mod where you're playing a little further back. You're really not going to get much value out of that radar, where the Hydro will be more useful to deal with some submarines sneaking up on you, DDs on your flank, maybe longer range torpedoes coming for your island. If you're playing a very stationary role like this, that can happen where someone launches some long range torps at you. It's nice to have that option to see them coming from a little further away. And getting towards the end of this match, you can see it's still pretty close, but the enemy team certainly does have an advantage in points and probably positioning. We got quite a few people just chilling in our spawn at the moment. So we need to start looking to impact the game a little bit more here towards the end. We saved decent amounts of HP here. I still haven't used a super heal in this one, so we have that available to us. But I should probably think about using it earlier here when I have the opportunity if I'm going to be pushing in, because I want my next one to be available to me. Even though this isn't a fully charged super heal, you're really oftentimes not going to get the full value out of a super heal just because you don't have that extra healing that you typically would in, say, a Minotaur, where more AP pens, more full pens, Citadel damage, Torp damage for sure, is just going to limit the amount of healing you get. So I'm going to use it here, but in all honesty, I probably should have used it a little sooner when I decided I wanted to start pushing in. But now that Freddy was taken out, the Bismarck also was taken out too by one of our battleships, which feels pretty good. That clears our flank to push in. Salem at close range, very good, as we've already seen. Even with a range mod build, not taking reload, we're still very, very strong. The DPM is very, very good at closer ranges like this. And since Montana has 406s, we can do some angling to them. Not through our bow, but certainly our upper belt can bounce some of those shells. I try to slow down and turn in a bit while keeping my DPM online for this Johann, but he does get a Citadel in on us, so you got to be a little bit careful, especially when you're at closer ranges using your rear turret. You are exposing your Citadel to these guys, but I do a little better job this time, and we do dodge that salvo, or at least we bounce it. And I want to take out the Johann before we deal with the Monty here, so hoping for some fires on this guy, trying to take him out. And now we deal with the Monty. And at these angles, we're going to use AP into his bow. And look at the damage. That was nearly 7,000 damage out of just our front guns. Another one, 7,000 damage front guns. He has to fully angle to us. Then we swap to the HE, try and get some fires, shoot superstructure. And unfortunately for us, we do take, I think, a Citadel double sit maybe to the bow from one of his guns, and we do go down. But that late game battle impact, that late push that we did there, opened up that game for our team, and I think we're going to win that one. And as for the build here on the Salem, I was running a few different options. I think if you're going for a very Salem-specific build, you could try running something like this, a little more conservative, not the full lighthouse build, but you can get extra damage out of heavy AP when we don't take Superintendent, because again, those extra heals, that extra last one really doesn't give us a whole lot with Salem. Still taking Conceal, but top grade gunner at those closer range situations, giving us reload. I didn't talk about it, but Grease the Gears is very important here. Your turrets are actually pretty slow. So taking that is very, very useful, keeping that DPM on target. Gun feeder, excellent here, allowing us to swap between our very good HE and AP shells very quickly, allows us to keep our the correct ammo type available to us. It's not necessary because the reload's so quick, but I still like it, especially with the improved commanders like Halsey. If you have Halsey, definitely be using him. He's so good. Taking Demo Expert here as well, because that's a 17% fire chance on guns that reload in 5.5 seconds, at least when we take range mod. So in this case, having range mod here. I really like reload personally. I will keep reload for myself with this ship in particular because I am trying to play more aggressive, but I totally get it. There are times in tier 10 where it's just so passive. Taking range mod can be much more comfortable. And if you're looking to play a bit of a lighthouse build, I think this is what I was running with the lighthouse version of Salem. It's very, very, very aggressive. No conceal, of course, but also taking heavy HE, which reduces our concealment, or increases our conceal to 13.9 here. And then if I were to remove concealment, it goes up to 15.5. And I can just show you that here. That with this build, you get really nice rudder shift, but 15.5 with 15.8 range on our guns. But that's that 5.2 second rudder shift with pretty solid turning circle radius, actually. Allows us to be very maneuverable, at least when turning. again, having that Des Moines Legendary upgrade would be very useful for a build like this. If we could have this super heal with Des Moines Legendary mod, oh, it'd be very fun. Very, very, very fun. But that is not an option here, unfortunately. But for me personally, a more comfortable build that can still play very aggressive and get good value out of reload is going to be something like this. This build here is what I would run specifically for Salem. If I'm just pulling a Des Moines commander over, I would still have Superintendent and probably not have heavy AP shells, for example. And that's just a minor little buff, not fully necessary. And then the upgrades would look like this for my Salem. Armor-wise, this ship is not great these days. Again, 30 mil and then 152 on the Citadel. No spaced armor here to deal with. This is an older ship design, so you're very liable to get Citadeled. It's not a modern ship where there's layers of armor to give you that black hole armor. It's underwater Citadel. It's a skinny Citadel to reduce the chance of getting Citadeled. It's not a modern ship in that design. It is old school where if you make a mistake, you're gonna explode. Which personally I prefer that, especially if they were to reduce overmatch and that gimmick, but keep and maybe increase the vulnerability of some of these ships when they do make mistakes and go broadside. I think that's just a more fun, interesting playstyle where you get punished for mistakes and rewarded for playing well. But hey, what do I know, right? But that's going to do it for the Salem. Look forward to a video once we're done with the high-tier coal cruisers where I rank the order in which I would get them and talk a little more about the differences between the ships, comparing them to each other. But that's going to do it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.